Hello friends, welcome to my channel Nikira Techies. In this video, we can do one basic reduction in Angular 20. For the API, we can use JSON Server REST API, and the designing purpose, we can use Material UI, and in this add and edit screen, we can do in the model pop-up. Okay, so let's start my implementation. So before that, let me show you what are the steps we are going to cover in this video. We can go one by one. The very first thing is we should have a proper environmental setup for this Angular 20. The steps are very simple. So the first thing is we have to upgrade our Node.js. If you have a Node.js version above 20, then it is fine. Okay. So if you have a lower version, make sure you have to upgrade your Node.js. And also, I am always recommending to have the latest version 24. Okay. So and the next thing is we need to upgrade our Angular CLI. This is the command. So basically, this command will install the Angular CLI. So in case if you have an older version in your machine, make sure you have to uninstall and install this Angular CLI. Okay. And the final one is JSON server. This package is used for implementing our JSON server API functionality. Okay. So in my machine, I'm already done all the configuration setup. So by executing this ng version command, we can see. See, my Angular version is 20 and Node.js version is 24.2 and the NPM version is 11.3. Okay. And the next thing is we can create one brand new application. So the command is same ng new and our application name just Angular create. Okay. So it is asking like, do you want to create a zoneless application? We can give yes. And next, which style sheet format would you like to use? We can choose the CSS. And do you want to enable the server side rendering? We can give yes. Okay, application installed successfully. We can open in the VS Code. So this is my application. So next we can install the required packages in the new terminal. First we can install the Material UI. So let me take the link. Angular Material site. We can take this command. Okay. Okay, we have a Angular 20 version is available. Let me give Y for proceeding. And the theme we can choose this Azure Blue. And this typography we can give yes. So next let me run this application. So meanwhile, if any library needed, we can install later. Okay, application in running, the local goes to 42W0. Okay, fine. So next we need an API. Let me open one new terminal and also parallelly creating one new folder, data. Okay, so inside that we can have one file, JSON file, db.json, and here we can have one object. Maybe I can provide the name as associate. Okay, here we can have some basic information. So here we need to add an object. Okay, inside the object only we can have these values. So now we can run this object as the JSON server API. So the command is JSON server. Okay, our API is running. For validating this one, we can take this resource URL. Okay, it's working fine. So the next thing is in our application, we can create the required components. Maybe I can open one more new terminal here. So the command is ng generate component, and we can create our component in the folder of associate. Okay. My first component name is list. Similarly, I can create one more component. Just providing the name as add. Okay, the component is created. So next we can create one service. I am creating inside the folder of service. Okay, or else shared folder. Service name I can provide associate. Okay, now the service also created. The next thing is we need to map this component in our routing side. If you go to the app config, not an app config, app.routing.ts file, in the default path, I added this list component. Okay, so similarly in our app component, here we have a lot of designing related things. Here I'm just keeping this routing outlet and removing all other codes. Okay, I hope our application in the running mode we can see the output. Okay, it is coming like this. That is our component. Okay, so next we can focus on the designing side. I'm including one mat card control. Okay, this is for the designing purpose, and again this control from the material UI. Okay, so we are getting the error. The reason is since we are using any of the material UI control, make sure we need to import the respective model. So the same thing we can do for this mat card. So the model name is mat card model. Okay, so it is not coming for the import, then we have to import it manually. In material UI, the control name is card. Okay, right. So the same way we can include some more controls. One is button and then table, and next dialog control. This is for showing the pop-up. Okay, so the same way we can change the model also. And also we can implement the two hooks. One is on init and another one is on destroy. Okay, so let me implement the both the hooks and removing this default exception, right? And also including this constructor. These all the things are needed. So now moving back to our HTML side. So here inside the card, I can include mat card header. Okay, and then mat card content. So inside the content, we can load our table. So currently I'm just providing one HTML table. Okay, so here we can modify it later. And similarly, in the header section, I am including one button. Providing the name as add. By adding one directive, we can make this into material UI control. Okay, Mac traced button, and color we can give primary. So let me format this one. Okay, now we can see in the browser. Okay, here we can see our card and button. For some better alignment, can include some margin. Okay, for this card, I'm taking this class name. We can modify this one. I mean, we can override this one. Okay, now somewhat fine. And this button, we provided the color is primary. Okay, it may be due to the different themes in our material UI. So let me verify that. If you go to the angular.json, we can see here in the style section, yeah, we have this azure blue, all right? So I'm changing this into indigo pink. You may have a question how to find the path for this CSS. If you go to this node models, so here you can see inside the Angular, we have this material, and in the pre-built theme section, we can see all the different CSS for the different themes. Okay, so now we are using this indigo pink. That's it. So since we are making changes from this configuration level, make sure we need to rerun this application. Okay. Okay, this is fine. See, our button color also got changed. The next thing is in this mat card content, we need to load the table. So already we have our API. It's running in this 3000 port. Okay. So the same data we have to bind in our table. So based on this data, we can create one model class. Okay. So let me copy everything. And in our application side, inside the source folder, I'm creating one model folder, right? And creating one new file and providing the name as same associate. Okay. And here we can export our interface. The interface is nothing but our model class only. Okay. Associate. For the difference, we can provide associate model. That's fine. The naming convention, right? And inside that, we can have all the properties. The first one is ID. Here the data type is number. Okay. Same way for this credit limit also, the data type should be number. And other two fields, name and address, it should be string. And the final one is boolean. Fine. Now our model class is ready. Just format it. And next thing is for accessing our API, we have to work with our service side. So this is our service. The name is associate. Here I'm having one constructor, right? And in this constructor, I'm injecting HTTP client, right? Since we are using this HTTP client, make sure we need to import one provider in our app.config side. So the name is provide HTTP client. Okay. And since we are using this server side rendering, we have to use with the fetch. Okay. So now I am moving back to our service side. And here I'm declaring one variable API base URL. Okay. So normally we can access this from the environment files. The reason is in this real-time application, we may have a different environments. So definitely we have to use the same code, the URL only varying based on the environments. Okay. So anyway, at the end of the video, I will include that environment file also. So currently I'm just hard coding this value. Okay. For the endpoint, we can take this base URL, right? Next, we can form the functions for doing our predictions. The very first method is one of the get function. Okay, this will return the list of associate information. It's a get method, and we need to pass this API URL, right? And also we know the data type associate model. So the same way I can create one more get function This is for returning the individual associate information, okay, as a object. So this method have one parameter, that is ID, and data type should be number, and the return type is one object. At the end, we need to pass this ID as the parameter, right? And the next function is delete. So anyway, we have to create the separate function for all the CRUD actions. So the first one is type delete. There is no return type. Since we are using the JSON server API, there is no return type. And again, this one also have one parameter, that is our same ID. Okay. And the next function is for update. So here the parameter is object. The type is put method, and we can take this ID from this object. And again, here also we need to pass this parameter. And the final one is create. The type is post, and here we no need to pass any parameters. Okay, fine. So now we have done from our service side. Next I am moving back to our component side. So in this list component, already we have this constructor. Here I am injecting the same service. So our service name is same associate service. Okay. So here I want to convey one information. Okay. So if you already familiar with the lower version less than Angular 20, naming convention of this component and services. If it is a list component, the name should be list.component.css. Similarly for all the files. So the same way for the service, if it is associate, we can see like associate.service.ts. So in Angular, they have changed everything. So there is no that keyword like a component or service. Okay. Next, we need to access our service function. So let me create one more new function in my component side. Okay. Here I am accessing this getAll function. There is no parameter. I am subscribing this one. So subscription is not coming. Let me verify in my service side. Yeah. So the thing is, make sure we need to return everything. So then only we can subscribe those items. The same thing should be applied for all the methods. Okay. Okay, fine. Now the subscribe option is enabled. So normally here we will get the value. For getting this value, I'm just declaring one variable. One variable. I can provide the name as list. Okay. And providing the default value as empty array. And whatever value is coming, I'm just assigning this into. So let me format it. Okay. And I'm just calling this function in our ng on into hook. It will be executed whenever our component is initiated. Okay. And the next thing is here we just subscribed. Once our component get destroyed, make sure we need to do the unsubscription. So I'm just declaring one more variable, subscription. So this is from RxJS, right? And here unsubscribe here, right? Okay, now the data is available. The next thing is we need to bind in the material way table. For that, we need what are the columns we are going to display here. So I'm just creating one new array variable, display headers. Okay. Here we can provide all the column values. Okay. ID name. Okay. I'm just binding these three columns, then we can modify. And similarly, I'm declaring one more variable. Name is data source. And the data type is mat table data source. And this is for associate model only. Okay. Since we are not assigning the default value, I'm just included this exclamatory symbol. Then once we have a actual list, I'm converting this into mat table data source. Okay. This dot data source equal to new mat table data source. Then this dot list. Right. Next, I'm moving back to the HTML side. So here we just included one table, and then I'm including one directive mat table and data source. We can use this data source, right? And we need to define our tr for header and body. And adding this directive mat header row. And the definition mat header row definition. And here we can include our header, display headers. So the same way we can do for the table body. So in this case, instead of the mat header row, we have to use directive mat row. Okay. So the same way for this definition, mat row definition. So let me format it. And the same way we can define all the columns. For that, I am using this ng container. Okay. And in this mat column definition, we can give ID. So this column is for ID. The same way we can do for all other columns. And in this th, the directive is mat header cell. Okay. Similarly for the definition, mat header cell definition and the hardcode value ID. Okay. So the same way we can do for the TD, it's for table body. And the cell should be mat cell. And the definition, mat cell definition. And finally, using this interpolation, we can bind these values. Okay. So the same way we can include the next two columns. One is name and then address. Okay. So now if you look at here, okay, we have this data. So let me include two more columns. One is for credit limit and another one is status. So first we need to include it from this display header itself. Okay. For the credit limit, I am providing the short form is CL and status. Finally, we should have one column name is action. It's for having our buttons. Okay. CL. CL is nothing but credit limit. Okay, there are two buttons I have included. Okay, there is no space. So we can include one more custom CSS. So now there is a space. And in this color also, I'm changing this into accent. Okay. And in the status, we can say active or inactive by applying some conditions. If it is true, then active, else it should be inactive. Okay, the syntax should be like this. Okay, fine. We can see this active, right? And for this header also, we can include some style. So now our listing is completed. The next thing is we can work for the add screen. Okay. So already we have one button. Okay. I'm just including one click event and binding one function add. Make sure we have to define this one. Okay. And for this add functionality, we are going to implement using the pop-up. So let me inject this mat dialog. Okay. And then writing one more new function, open pop-up. Okay. Here using this dialog control, we can open our pop-up. Okay. So here the first parameter is component. We can use this add component. Okay. And additionally, we have some parameters. Okay. Like setting some property. Width I can give 60%. Okay. And enter animation, I can give 1000 milliseconds. Similarly, for the exit animation, I'm providing the same value. Okay. I have to call this function here. Okay, once I click this add button, see the pop-up is opened. So here we can do our designing for our add screen. So here also the same. First I'm going to have one mat card control. So make sure we need to import the relevant items. So already we have imported something in our listing component. Okay, so I can copy all the items. Most probably we will use some controls here. This card and button. Okay. And additionally, we will use input control and a checkbox. Okay. So I don't think we have any other controls. If anything needed, we can include at the particular time itself. Okay. Fine. Again, here also, first we can have this mat card, right? And mat card header. I'm including one H1 tag and saying add associate. Okay. Next in this content section, we can have our controls. So finally, in this mat card actions, we can have our controls. I mean, button controls. Okay. We can take it from here. I added both. One we can say as save, and another one is close. Okay. So here we can include our controls, form control. So if we go to the material UI, here we have more controls. Okay, I'm taking this input control. I'm just providing the name as ID. Okay, mat input, and we can remove this placeholder and other text. Okay, so the same way I can include other controls, name and address. And then in this address, instead of input control, we can use text area. Okay, and then credit limit. And the final one is active. For the is active, and the final one is status. For that, we can use the checkbox control. So if you go to the component section, you can find like checkbox. See, we have different types of checkbox. So let me copy this one. And we can say status. Let me format it. So now we have all the controls, but the alignment is not looks good. Okay. So we can add some custom CSS here also. So the first one is for this button. Just copied and included here. And similarly for these form controls, to 90%. Or else we can give 100 also fine. Okay. Maybe if you want reduce to this bit of our pop-up, there we can adjust here. While opening the pop-up, maybe we can give 40% instead of 60. Okay. So now our design looks fine. Okay, design is fine. The next thing is we need to get the values from this form control. Okay. So we have two approaches. One is reactive forms approach and another one is template driven form approach. So I'm going to use the reactive form approach. Okay. So our changes from this add component. So the very first thing is we have to import this React form model. Okay. And then including constructor. So the same way implementing hook, two hooks on init and on destroy. Right. Okay. Next we can inject our services. Okay. And injecting the form builder. Then defining our form. Okay, we are getting this error. Look like we need to define this form before. Okay, and we can initiate here. Fine. So next we can include all the controls one by one. First one is ID. Okay. So this field I am going to make in the disabled mode. Okay. The default value just to provide at 0. That's it. And the next one is name. The default value is empty and making this field as required. Okay. And also I'm going to include one more validation, the minimum length. So we can use this validators.compose option for having more than one validation. Okay. And then address. So address field, we can have only one validation that is required. That is enough, I believe. And then CL, that is credit limit. We can provide the default value 0. Okay. And the final one is status. The default value I can provide true. Okay. So let me format it. Next, we can bind this form in our HTML side. So what I'm going to do, I can include one HTML form before our mat code. Okay. Whatever content we have, like our mat code content, I'm just moving here. And in this form, I can include form group and our value is form. Okay. So the same way in our controls, I can provide form control name. One is ID, and similarly the second one is this is for name, and in this text area, and this is for address, Then this credit limit, we can provide just CL. And finally, in our checkbox control, status, right? You can see this design. Okay, the values also binded. You can see the control also gets disabled. Okay. Okay, this is fine. So next we can get the values from this form. Let me close this one. Okay, it's not closing, so I can write one function here. I'm just changing this button into anchor tag. Okay, and adding one function. So here I have to close our pop-up. Okay, so we need one dialog reference. Okay, so let me inject it here. And this add a component. We can try now. Okay. So now the pop-up is closing. The next thing is we have to work for this submit function. So in the same form, I'm including one event, ng submit. Okay. And adding one function, save. Let me define that. Here I'm just checking one validation. Okay. Whether this form is valid. If it is valid, I can define one object and data type is associate model. We need to assign the value. Okay. So the same way, we can include all the fields. Okay. And then we have to call our services. And in this create function, we need to pass this data. I'm just subscribing this one. So since we are using this JSON server API, the action is completed, then we are considering this is the success scenario. Okay. So in the real-time API, we will get a response whether it is pass or fail. Based on the response, we can decide whether it is created or not. So in this scenario, we can consider once the action is completed, always success. Okay. So initially, I'm providing JavaScript alert. Later, we can change this into some traditional alert. Okay. I'm just providing saved. That's it. We can create one new record. Okay, it's blocking the validation. Okay. We have to provide a minimum 5 characters. Okay. We got a saved message. Once I refreshed only, I am able to see the records. Okay. The expectation is once it is saved, make sure we need to close the pop-up and the data also need to be refreshed in our table. Okay. So what I'm going to do in our add component side, once the save is completed, I'm showing this pop-up. After that, I'm calling this close function. Okay. And one more thing, in our list component, in this pop-up opening time, I am including after closed. Okay. Here I have to load this getter list function once again. So now we can try once again. Once I click to save, look like pop-up is closed, but the data is not refreshed. Let me try once again. Okay, again the data is not refreshed. I'm trying to refresh the screen. Okay, now the data is there. So look like in the newer version, we may have to include some extra code. Let me verify. First I'm checking whether it's hitting here. This is the way actually we have to debug. Okay, whenever we got any error or something. So it saved successfully, but it is hitting here. It's actually reaching this function, but it's not reflected it here. So look like we have to update the data forcefully. So what I'm going to do, let me create one more new function. Okay. So we can say update list. Okay. We are having the same function only. And in this area also, instead of this getter list, we can call this update list. Okay. So in this data source, already we have a data. So what I'm going to do, I'm just changing this data by adding like this. Okay. And then for the force rendering in our table, we can access our table using this view child. So next we can render this one. Okay. Forcefully rendering this table. Render rows. And I'm clearing my records. So now we have three records. I'm trying to create one more new record. So now once I click to save, I got this alert. See, the data also got reflected it here. Okay. Okay. So now our add functionality is working fine. So next I can work for this edit function. Okay. So in this edit function, if I go to the listing, I have two buttons, right? Here I am including one event. That's the click event. And the function name is edit. Okay. Here I am passing one parameter. That's our ID. So the same way in this remove button also I can include one function delete. So let me define both the functions. First one just edit and it's having one parameter. The data type I just provided any. So the same way another function we can say delete and we have one IDS parameter. Okay. So next in this edit time also I need to open this pop-up. Okay. Then I can directly call this function. But one more thing, here I need to pass this parameter ID. Okay. So what I'm going to do in this function, I'm just marking one parameter, the data type I am just providing number. Okay, in this add time I'm defaultly providing 0. So in this edit time I'm just passing this ID, right? So next in this open pop-up time I'm just passing here, I'm passing some data as the object format, just ID. Okay, let me format it. Here I'm getting some runtime error. And the next thing is we need to access this value in our add component. Okay, we can get the data using this map dialog data option. Change it. Okay, fine. And declaring one more variable. The data type should be any. So next in our ng on info, I'm just assigning value for our dialog data variable. This dot data. Okay. Okay. Based on this data, we can identify our request is edit or add. Okay. So I'm just declaring one more variable, title, add associate. Okay. And then is add. So defaultly I'm providing true for this one. Okay. So in this line, I'm going to have one more check. This dot dialog data dot id, if it is greater than 0, then we can say this is the edit scenario. So in this time, I'm changing this title as edit associate. Okay. Similarly, and is add also false. And the same title, we can bind it here. So now if you are coming from this add screen, it's a add associate. From this edit and it is changed into edit. The next thing is we have to load the data for this edit scenario. Okay, so let me go back to our component. Here I'm just calling our services, this get function. So here we need to pass this data. I'm subscribed to this one. Okay, and let me declare one more variable. So whatever value is coming, I can assign to here. Okay, so once I have a value, I can directly assign to this form. So now See, the values are binded. Okay. So the next thing is we have to work for the update function. It's very simple. So already we have a save function here. Okay. So here I am going to have one more check is added. First I am taking this one. This is for the add scenario. Similarly, the message I am just changed into updated. Instead of the create function, I'm just calling this update. Okay. Other things are same only. So let me verify. If I'm taking this Abdul, I'm just updating this name, Abdul Qadir, and the credit limit also I provided 5,000. Oh, look like it's not saved. Look like I'm getting some error. Let me verify that. So in this data, we are assigning all the values. Okay, that's fine. Here the problem is when I'm defining my form, we marked this control as disabled. Okay. So then obviously we are unable to get the value from here. Okay. For getting this value, we have to use get raw value function. Okay. So then in this update scenario, we can set value for this ID. So the same way, we are able to get the value from this form, and by using this get raw value function dot add. Okay. Other things looks fine only. Maybe I can provide the same value. Abdul Qadir and credit limit is 5,000. Once I saved, so we got the message updated, and also it is reflected is here. Okay. Maybe if I'm trying to change the active status, it's currently inactive. Once I click the save, see it changed into inactive. Okay. So next we can work for this delete functionality. So in our list component, already I have included one function delete. So here I am just checking on confirmation. Okay. It's the JavaScript function only. Okay. Once it is confirmed, we can call the services. Okay. So in this delete function, I am passing this ID as the parameter. I put as deleted. That's it. Okay. And also I am just calling this update function. I mean update list function. So do you want to delete? Once I click to OK, I got the message deleted. See, the record also got removed from our list. Okay. So now we successfully completed our CRUD action. Okay. So next what I'm going to do, if you look at our service side, I just hard coded this API URL, okay, API base URL. So instead of that, we can include one environment file. From this environment file, we can get this base URL. Okay. So we can do that also. By executing the commands, I'm generating this environment file. So this command included two files. One is for development and another one is for the default file. Similarly, based on our requirement, we can include a number of files for the environments. Okay. So in this environment file, I'm going to have one variable. Maybe we can take the same variable here. There it is. I just formatted. Okay. So the same variable should be included all the environment file. The value may be varying, okay, for the different environments, but this key value should be included everywhere. So next in our service side, we can get it from, so it is taking from the development API based work. Okay. Since we are making this change, it is reflected in our angular.json also, I believe. See, okay. So in this scenario, better we can rerun our application. Okay. We are getting some kind of warnings. Okay, actually, it's part of the server side rendering. So, but it is not blocking our application. Anyway, I will check and I will update in my next video. Okay. So now the environment configuration is working fine. The final thing is this alert. So if you look at here, we have provided just a JavaScript alert. Okay. For the traditional UI, we can use toaster alert or material UI alert was there. Okay. So I am planning to use the toaster only, but due to the time consumption, I am completing this video. For the toaster, I will create the separate video. Okay. You can expect as soon as possible. Please stay tuned for my next video. Thank you. Thanks for watching.